Welcome to the Combot Debut.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Robot Combat Tonight, here with a bit of a July 4th episode, episode 11, presented to y'all here with the Combot Collective, bringing everything you want to know from the world of robot combat, from the heavyweight class to the flyweight class, from Battlebots to the live circuit. We're covering all those bases today, but I do want to apologize with y'all to kick this episode off. I know when we went to the Battlebots offseason, I said we would be going every other week, and we are kind of keeping with that. I said every 2 weeks, every 14 days, expect a new RCT episode. But due to some unforeseen, things coming up after my Amidst the Havoc recordings during the week prior to this, the week the episode was supposed to come out, things just got kind of pushed behind. Of course, on Saturday and Sunday, we were doing Amidst the Havoc live streams for NHRL in June. Thank you for everyone who tuned in for that. But then on Monday, I made an announcement on the TCC Discord. That morning, my dog was sick, and she's fine now, thankfully. Anyone that sent me good wishes for her, thank you. But I wasn't in the right mind to just sit in my office while she was in the living room, so I just wanted to keep my eye on her for 3 days. So because of that, no recording, nothing really got done outside of script work. I was able to do it on my laptop. And then on Thursday, my motor transportation got busted. That was a whole thing. Partying, seeing some friends, seeing some family. Can't take out TCC time for that. It's a big weekend for me, so just pretty hefty weekend. Good things and bad things. Most of it's being resolved, or hopefully will be resolved. Some of it's all right. But I digress. You're not here to hear my life story. You're here to hear some robot combat. That's just an update, though. Sorry for a bit of a delay on this one. It'll probably be, it's like 2.5 weeks as of right now, the July 4th, when we're recording this. It'll be probably, almost 3 weeks since our last episode when this does finally get out. So I do apologize about that, though I am here, your host, as always, Sterling Brown, a.k.a. Sterling TXTG. That's where you can find me on Instagram posting about some of my July 4th adventures. And I do apologize, we do not have any co-hosts here this week just because of the sporadic scheduling. This actually is a morning recording, even though we are calling it Robot Combat Tonight, just because just couldn't find a good time to get this one in. But here we are. We're finally able to push it in here. And we have a lot to talk about today. It actually is a very jam-packed episode full of topics. Battlebots Destructathon developments, new applicants, small robots, big robots. Even though if it is a bit of a July 4th episode, I got my USA Ranger hat on. I got my US flags button up on. We are going to be ending the episode with some UK robot combat talk, discussing the second Extreme Robot Stop, which happened in June. We're going to be all over that, and you can kind of see what we're talking about here. It's all laid out on the table. Tombstone, a little bit of Ray Billings discussion here, a little bit of the BritBots, a little bit of Bronco, of course, our champion machines here. It's going to be a lot. Very exciting episode. I'm very much looking forward to writing down this with all of you guys. But, of course, we're going to be kicking it off with some NHRL June 2023 results and developments. 2 major events to talk about this episode to fill in for Battlebots, NHRL, and Extreme Robots, both doing some big-time competition since our last episode. And before we jump into NHRL, how fitting, how apropos it is to bring it up right now. Our sponsor here at the Combot Collective, going through the 2022 Battlebots World Championship 7 season. It is RobotsRuinMyLife.com. Our friends, more relevant than ever after the team's very solid showing at NHRL June. RobotsRuinMyLife.com is the merchandise provider for numerous East Coast teams in NHRL and Battlebots. Of course, Battlebots competitors such as Starchild, Ripperoni, and Shredded Bro are all represented on the website. You can get the Starchild Ripperoni poker chips. You can get the Ripperoni pizza box, Shredded Bro merchandise, Starchild and Shredded Bro merchandise for both the heavyweight and the smaller versions of the robot. That brings us to NHRL. You can get merchandise for robots such as Milk Tank, for robots such as, the numerous Omega Team and Shredder Bro robots that are out there. They got merchandise for all sorts of insane machines. and merchandise just solely related to NHRL and RobotsRuinMyLife.com as well. Some stuff that you can usually only buy at the NHRL merch at the House of Havoc. You can buy it here on this website, so please check it out. Contact them if you want to try to get some merchandise going on your own end. Please be sure to look at them. RobotsRuinMyLife.com. They will be linked in the description below as always. Partners and sponsors of the Combot Collective. And I got to bring it up since we are celebrating the halfway point of the 2023 NHRL season. We got 2 more giveaways to do this year, partnered with RobotsRuinMyLife.com. We already gave away one of these during one of the NHRL events at the earlier part of the year. Well, to celebrate the halfway point, we're giving away another, the green Wake and Bake NHRL Finals 2022 t-shirt, medium in size. Keep that in mind. You know, get something to rep, something to adorn while you get hyped up for the final stretch towards the NHRL 2023 November Finals. Enter this giveaway. You will receive this shirt, and you will receive a sticker pack of RobotsRuinMyLife.com stickers and Combot Collective stickers. So you'll get, you know, some Star Child stickers, some RRML stickers from some of the smaller robots, some Pori Loves Bloodsport stickers, some old TCC logo stickers, and the shirt. It's all going to be there. Please check out the link in the description below. And I'm sorry this giveaway didn't get kicked off sooner. It was just another thing that got delayed due to the long week I had. But I digress. Let's talk about some robot combat. Let's talk about some results. NHRL June 2023, Sparky's Circus. It is the sole 2-day event of the year on the NHRL calendar. And this one honestly kind of snuck onto me during its build-up. Really didn't have too much time to cover it in pre-competition time. But NHRL had come again, you know, you got to be ready for it. Their 4th qualifier event of the 2023 season, and one with some serious buzz behind it. We saw multiple media appearances for NHRL, including one on NBC's Today of all spots, plus a major announcement by NHRL that they were going to be doing a special exhibition event in San Francisco this July. These big-time developments have made NHRL move to a brand new name in the National Havoc Robot League. And funny story here, you know, my stepfather actually, I was watching the NHRL May event with him where he actually saw the Today reporter there on set watching some of the fights, and he made note of it, and I was like, there's no way that's him. Why would they be coming to this? It's probably some local Norwalk reporter, because he was well dressed. He was right. My boy knew his TV show host, I guess, his morning TV host, because he was correct. That's crazy. We got to see Al Roker stand in front of a big picture of 12-pound huge. It's kind of insane. That's pretty exciting. Seeing this grand scale, and you know, when I was watching that Today segment and I saw them call it the National Havoc Robot League, I thought they butchered the name. I thought they fucked up the name, but no. They really are just taking a big step here in the right direction, and we're trying to follow them, of course. The Combot Collective did do a pair of big pre-event streams, like I mentioned earlier, for NHRL this time around. They were an absolute blast, but as I also did mention, we missed out on our post-event stream due to my dog getting sick, that personal emergency. So to make up for it, hopefully you guys can expect a rare TCC breakdown video set to cover NHRL June coming your way soon. Or I should say a series of videos doing one for each class. Hopefully we can get those 3 videos out to you guys before the next competition. Look out for that. But now we're going to go over our top 4 for each class, the qualified finalists for each class, and the major stories for each class fairly briskly. You know how we do it at the Combot Collective. Starting from smallest, working our way to the biggest. Let's go to NHRL's bread and butter, the Beetleweight. But as we jump into this 2 days of robot combat action, we got to talk about the most polarizing story of this entire event first. One I am just jazzed to talk about. I wish I had some co-hosts here for this one. We're talking, of course, about Spitfire, and no, not the one we discussed in our last episode that we had the little standalone video on. But for the first time, yes, the first time since SPS 50 at Robot Wars 1995, we got to see a flying robot enter a robot combat arena as a standalone competitor. And oh boy, the rules were probably going to be changed because of this whole ordeal. This was insane. Spitfire, the robot best known as the drone for machines such as Texas Twister, Sub-Zero, and most recently Lockjaw, was entered and ran by a group of Texas All-Stars in Fuzzy Malden plus Brady and Logan Davis. So because of that, I was already a fan of this machine, already very familiar with Spitfire like a lot of you guys probably are. But Numerous others were most definitely not fans of Spitfire. It defeated the big name Billy on its return fight after 2 years by just sort of floating over the big wheeled robot, torching it for 3 entire minutes, and then it baked Bake in a very similar way in the following fight when Bake tried to use a feather on a stick to take out Spitfire here. Didn't work, unfortunately, for my buddy Angel Vidal. And it ended up taking a robot with a lifting strategy and a very well-designed extension from Half-Life to finally take Spitfire out of the skies. It was able to stick that lifting extension directly upwards and somehow wedge it into one of the propellers of Spitfire. And once one was down, it knocked out the robot. It was so insane watching this beast that was nearly impossible to kill but essentially only had 1 HP. So wild. Maybe this is something we're going to be seeing and something we can look forward to in the Beat-A-Weight future with NHRL and other competitions which allow the weight boost. I know I've never seen anything like that in this sport after 20 years of watching. If I had to guess, though, we're probably not going to see nothing crazy like that, sadly. Rules are going to be rules, and we can't just have 2 drones flying all over the arena. I know we always have casual fans in Robot Combat clamoring for 2 drones fighting each other, drone classes. But I just don't think it would make for good TV. They have such low HP. They don't take hits. We can't put a vertical spinner on them. There's no hype in them flying because they're already flying. They just fall. It's a whole rabbit hole. But now let's get to some of our top tier placing robots in this 3-pound Beat-A-Weight division. And lucky for us, all 4 of these robots, which made the top 4 in this event, were not robots which had made Final 4 earlier in the year. So they all qualified. And we start off with the machine, maybe even more bizarre than Spitfire, with Hot Hands. This is a 5-pound horizontal clamp bot built by our new Battlebots Champions G3 Robotics. And Hot Hands features a very unique weapon, which is a horizontal arm set, which, in both the arms, we got direct heating elements, which not really like welding, I would say, or like a hot glue gun, but it is kind of in that level of intensity. It worked very well in its run, though, taking out numerous robots, such as contenders and newcomers alike. Blackbird was defeated on 2 different occasions. It outplayed its equally wild teammate Handshake in the Sweet 16, and it even managed to pull off a massive, absolutely massive knockout against the already qualified Caldera during the Elite 8. It took a controversial judge's decision loss against Jetlag, though, to shut the hands down. That was a whole mess in its own way. We'll get more into the judge's decisions here in a minute. Just behind Jetlag, still qualified, though, will be Blackbird, our closest friends here at the Combot Collective, one of our favorite machines. Like we always say, we got the piece behind us. As I turn around, it's apparently crooked. That's very cool, Kanye, but I digress. The powerful Drumebot had been looking for another massive tournament run since its April 2022 outing where it made the final 2 against Leaks. And with Blackbird, according to Tony D'Ambrosio, now as good as it's going to get pretty much, there wasn't much left for this machine and driver to do other than win it all. We're probably going to have to wait until November for that big win-it-all opportunity. But we did get to see another deep run with wins over robots such as Crashfest and Top Seed Chubby Unicorn, victories which would put Blackbird into the semifinals against Silent Spring. Silent Spring would knock out Blackbird, but enough was done by the Team Shredded Bro robot. And at the end of the event, Tony D would announce that in 2024, Blackbird will return, but it will be captained by his daughter. That's awesome to see. Very happy for Tony D'Ambrosio getting his signature robot in. And like we mentioned in April during some of the Robo Games discussion, we are very excited to see what a lot of the Shredded team can do in a 12-pound and 30-pound class with these robots, these upscaled machines. We're seeing so many 250-pounders downscaled. Let's see some robots upscaled again. I'm excited for that. Can't wait to see the big Blackbird or whatever he has in mind. Very stoked. But now on to our final 2. We start with our runner-up as we have the top-tier Jumbot Jetlag, whose driver Lars won Motorama's Best Driver Award back in February, only a few months ago. Jetlag had to face quite a few big names en route to the finals, machines such as Evil Twin, Wormhole, UK's Chili Daddy, and of course, controversially in that judge's decision, Hot Wings. But as things just seem to be this year, this class was all about G3 robotics and more specifically Jameson Go's signature creation, at least in this 3 to 5 pound Beat-A-Weight class, Silent Spring, which is Jameson's 5-pound, 5-time NHRL event winning undercutter. And even though it hasn't competed since the 2022 December finals, you would not be able to tell from this performance here. We saw dominant KO or near KO victories all the way during the bracket outing, from New York Slice to Stoneforge to even already qualified robots in Synthesis and Voxel. Blackbird met a similar fate, like I mentioned, but in the finals, we would finally see one robot hold strong and hold its own all the way to the end against Silent Spring. And that would be jet lag, but it wasn't enough to win the judges over. As now, with this performance, this championship performance, another golden dumpster for Jameson Go, making Silent Spring a 6-time champion now. Jameson Go has won a significant 3-pound, 12-pound, 30-pound, and 250-pound championship, all in the window of half a calendar year. Every event he attends, he just solidifies how good he is. It's so impressive. I am just in awe of what Jameson Go has done. Like I said a few episodes ago, it's Carlo Bertaccini shit. But now let's move onward to the Hobbyweight class. And there were some fun machines, such as a stronger than ever version of Milk Tank, a 12-pound claw viper named Timber Viper, the legendary Minor Threat 5, and even a robot from Ray Billings himself going under the name of Fake News. But the story of the 12-pound class this time around would be the good word of another horizontal sweep. Something to make Mantine happy, but perhaps bigger for my Northern Midwest fans. We have a University of Cincinnati sweep. From Team Penguin to the Wildcats themselves. The Queen City was shining bright in late June here at Norwalk. But before we get to that, let's talk about our final 4 fallouts. 2 of our 3 NHRL annual champions showed up at this event, and first we get this discuss. And the first of the 2 we gotta discuss here is the Dorfler brothers Huge. This mini Huge is essentially the 12-pound representative of the Huge family and has quite a massive reputation at NHRL with that recent 2022 annual title. It defeated a couple of robots with championship pedigree in Earl and Crunk, but just like its faraway sibling Disco, it would be shut down by the Ohio Spinners. And talking about Disco, an older Dorfler creation, this machine has quite a legacy and reputation in robot combat. It was one of the older pioneers of the classic endgame style vertical spinner setup and has been incredibly successful at both NHRL and NERC competitions in the past. Its old school tactics shut down some fellow classical machines such as Minor Threat and Fake News, but it cannot keep up to the times during its knockout loss against Cthulhu. And this set up our finals. 2 brothers in one arena with 2 very similar robots, both looking to join Maximizer, another University of Cincinnati robot, as a 2023 NHRL monthly champion. On one end, we had Cthulhu, a beautiful horizontal spinner from the depths which impressed during the May NHRL tournament. And on the other, we have Superscope, a robot simply built to test future upgrades to robots such as Cthulhu and Maximizer, ended up making its own mark on the sport here instead. These 2 sibling machines, similar in design, agreed to meet in the finals, and shockingly enough, the younger experimental robot ended up coming out on top. Superscope managed to not only qualify at its NHRL debut event, but it managed to win the whole thing, plus defeat some other elite combatants on the way there also. So big shouts to University of Cincinnati. They now have 3 elite horizontal spinners qualified for the 2023 November finals, 2 of which have golden dumpsters already. You got to watch out for them. I always talk about how in the vertical spinners world, 12-pound classes is still a group they just dominate like nothing. Maybe that's changing. I'd love to see it. And now, finally, in the 30-pound featherweight class, this is where things get a little bit hairier. 4 semifinals machines, and 2 of them had already qualified for the NHRL finals all the way back in January, which meant that 2 robots in the Elite 8 would receive these finals invites instead. When this occurs, NHRL usually gives the 2 highest ranking Elite 8 robots the finals honors, and luckily for William Shatner and the rest of our boys in Brooklyn, those spots would go to Bots FC, both the 45-pound knockoff white and our 2022 NHRL annual 30-pound champion. Emulsifier looks solid enough in the round of 8 versus Yahoo and Cub Louie Tango respectively. Not one-sided affairs by any means, but fights I personally believe the Bots FC machines had won. I mean, apparently they just didn't. You know, like I mentioned earlier, there were a lot of criticisms about judging at this event, and this is one of them big reasons as to why. But, you know, at least they qualified. Not much can be said about Kevin Mocheski's Red Storm, a 30-pound version of Claw Viper, which also reached the top 8, but did not qualify due to being brand new at NHRL. It too got on, in my opinion, the incorrect end of a judge's decision versus Texas's Squire, but more on that robot later. Other notable did not qualify come from various Battlebots teams such as the aforementioned Team XD and Hardcore Robotics, but also Team Copperhead as well. Team XD brought a brand new favorite of mine in 30 below, a featherweight version of Sub-Zero, the one we all know and love, the one that made me eat the Subway sandwich. And on the other end, we got Ray Billings with Hardcore Robotics. He brought along Disinformation, a two-wheel drive drum bot much similar to the aforementioned Fake News. Both those robots came oh so close to qualifying, but came one fight short. I hate that. And then on Team Copperhead's end, we have Luke Quintal, the captain of the team. And he ended up being one of the real stories of this event with his brand new machine, Pepe Sylvia, a 45-pound walking full-body drum. This wild design did make the Sweet 16, but sadly did not go much further than that after a brutal loss to Knock Off White, one of the more spectacular fights of the event. Definitely go to check out that one. But now let's get on to the rest of our Final Four. The two robots which had already qualified ended up being our two finalists, so let's check into our newest entries into the November Classic first. Two robots which came up short of the final two. First, coming out of Team Copperhead, while not captained by Luke Quintal, is a robot a lot of us expected to qualify for the finals at one point or another this year. We're talking about Yahoo. This Colorado drum bot has had some serious success at NHRL, AVC, and NERC events in the past, but had a tumultuous trip to reach the top 4 where it lost to Chonky and almost lost to Emulsifier as well. That being said, Yahoo was a much more worthy qualifier than one Perry, the only international robot to qualify for the finals at this event in any class. The Toronto spinner really didn't shock the world at all. It did defeat Disinformation in what was one of the most confusing fights I've seen in a long time. But hey, it made it. Can't take it away from them. And then the finals, like I mentioned, a pair of pre-qualifieds in Squire and Kablooey Tango. Squire was last seen at NHRL's January final, where it lost via Looney Tunes KO to that month's champion EVA. And luckily, Squire was able to extract some revenge on EVA's sibling robot Wicked Weds XL at this event, but it would not be so lucky versus Kablooey Tango here in the finals. Kablooey Tango entered the final as the defending NHRL monthly 30-pound champion and the holder of a 1-1 career record versus Squire. This was a big-time rubber match here. Kablooey Tango had defeated the likes of Panja Drum, Knockoff White, and Yahoo win the tournament, but this final showdown versus DFW's Mini Dragon Slayer would be its most entertaining, most back-and-forth showing. A battle, though, which ended up seeing Kablooey Tango leave with its second straight NHRL 30-pound title, now set as an elite machine in this division, while unfortunately Squire now back-to-back holders of the second place position. The Witch Doctor curse in full effect here, but hey, big time shouts to all of our qualified robots and our 3 champions, Silent Spring, Super Scope, and of course, like we just mentioned, Kablooey Tango, now a back-to-back champion. Huge event for the University of Cincinnati. Huge event for G3 Robotics in the 3-pound class. Huge event for Battlebots veterans in the 30-pound class. Plenty of great designs, truncated versions of heavyweights. That's always really fun to see. Honestly, I'm just so impressed with what G3 Robotics has done lately. In my midst of Havoc streams, I made the predictions of, who was it? I said Silent Spring would win the 3-pound class. I got that right. I said Minor Threat 5 would win the 12-pound class, but that was before I realized Derek Tran was driving for the robot. No disrespect to him, but I just like it when the OG driver drives the robot. It's hard to get better than that, especially when they have such a pre-stated success. And then in the 30-pound class, of course, I had to go Emulsifier, and I bet it could have done it if it wasn't for that judge's decision. But now let's move on to an event which happened at the same time as NHRL June. You know, usually we kick it off with our small event results. Only one really big one to follow this week, but we decided to mix it up and put it here instead as we discussed Clash of the Bots 2023 in North Carolina. Some recognizable names who skipped NHRL for this event here in the 3-pound class, plus the usual 150-gram and 1-pound divisions that go on top of it. Starting from bottom to top here as usual. In the 150-gram ferryweight class, we have our notables, Circlips and Sharkbite. You know, they were in this class, some fun-looking designs, notable names. Didn't make it into the top 3. Third place would be Chip, a 2-wheel drive plow. Second place would be a very unique design, a Rex-style gyro spinner. We'll be talking more about Rex later. Death Wish taking second, a little bit of a weight boost on that robot. And in first place, 4-wheel drive egg beater robot in Chipper. Team Houghton Robotics took both first and third here with Chip and Chipper. The team keeping the trophy in the North Carolina territory. You love to see it. In the 1-pound class, in third place, we have a veteran kitbot drum in Saifu, taking another piece of hardware home. Second place will be the 2-wheel drive rammer Mad Cow. And in first place, we got Hurricane, a 3D printed 2-wheel drive drum. Back-to-back championships for the drum here. Very excited to see that. But here we go. Beat-a-weight class once again. Who did good here? Who can we expect to maybe see at NHRL in the future? Let's talk about him. In third place, we have Andromeda, a very aesthetically pleasing 2-wheel drive beater drum. Second place, we saw the NHRL fairly recently, Ratfish. And in first place, Drumbot. Once again here, a robot we've seen quite a bit. Another veteran of the sports, Wada, god of ugly things, taking home the gold. Former NHRL finalist Combot was also in this field. Got to make note of them, but they ended up finishing near the bottom at 2-2. Bit unfortunate for them. But that's all of our small bot discussion done. Congratulations to both our NHRL and Clash of the Bots winners. Let's talk about big bots, the future of the sport. What can we expect? Battlebots applicants? We got some big news here coming straight from the Scorpius vlogs. Usually we don't cover what goes down on the Scorpius YouTube channel since, you know, they're pretty thorough with their own coverage. But this is something we just have to cover because folks have been clamoring for a development like this for quite some time on pretty much every community, whether it be Discord or Reddit or even Facebook. You know, there have been murmurs from various teammates of a potential redesign for Rex, a potential return for Rex for quite some time in the robot combat community. You know, we've seen campaigns for a return from groups such as Team Scorpius, Team Malice, and numerous failed applications. No compromise from Battlebots when they try to make the design better. But on June 16th, Team Scorpius, a roster which was built off the original Rex team, would announce that they would be the ones attempting to resurrect the one and only Rex for a future Battlebots competition. Very exciting news here. Wish I had the co-host here for this one. On Facebook and YouTube, we would see Zachary Lytle and Team Rex OG Dan Chatterton experimenting with a new design for Rex in a much smaller, you know, prototype form. And honestly, a design which looks a lot more like a T-Rex, to be honest, with the long rear and the stubby little front. You know, the 2015-2016 version of Rex put together a career record of 0-3, and the main reason for these issues would be weight and mobility. In fights like versus Plan X, Rex could barely move around the arena for the life of it, and in fights like versus Razorback, Rex's weapon would be too hefty for its size, and it ended up doing more damage to itself than to others. So what did they do? How did they fix this? They added a tail. Sometimes it's just that simple. You know what? Talking about dinosaurs, let's bring the Rex on stage right here. In some driving tests with this new smaller design, we'd see this new tail would allow Rex to have a much more proper turning circle that, you know, swings the entire body around instead of just arcing around. And the robot can self-right still, or, you know, at least this smaller version could. Zachary Lytle would share with Dan Chatterton and Luke Quintal, another gyrobot builder, that he has a pretty far-fetched plan to get this big beast allowed into Battlebots competition. He is intending on building this new Rex to accommodate Roby Games' Walker bonus rule, which applies to gyro walking machines, and then show it to, you know, Greg Munson and Trey Roski at Battlebots, fully functional, ready to compete, hoping that they just allow this machine with a new weight bonus just off the sheer coolness of the machine. Maybe that's their only way they could finally get Battlebots to cave in and accommodate these machines into the rule set finally. I do wish them the best of success with this concept, as bold as it may be. Obviously, Rex, a very, very cool robot from the ABC era. Honestly, one of the staples of the ABC era. But like with numerous designs we've seen in the past, which are absolutely wild, robots such as Horizon, Smee, and even the original Rex, not all designs always translate once brought up to a higher weight class. I mean, sure, we saw Mini Rex turn great with the tail. The self-riding was excellent. It looked awesome. But is this really what we should expect out of what may be a 500-pound machine? I'm not fully sold, but I do look forward to it. Hopefully, like I mentioned, looking at a actual TRex here, with the short stabilizers and the long tail, the big weapon, it is going to resemble a TRex. It's going to look the part. It's going to be beautiful. We know it's going to have that fantastic character that we always expect from Zach and Diana group, all the Team Scorpius people and all their wacky characters that run over there. I look forward to it. Hopefully, if it doesn't compete at Battlebots' main competition season, we can maybe see it at Destructathon. Maybe we can see it at RoboGames. I'd love to see it at Destructathon. Maybe fighting something big like a Ginsu. Maybe have it fight the slot machine. Maybe Battlebots can grow up here and have it fight Nightmare. I'd love to see that. There's definitely a home for this robot at Battlebots Destructathon. It's a big lumbering beast. Find a way to contain it. We can have Gearcrow. We can have this robot. But hey, while we're on the topic of Battlebots Destructathon, this is a big transition here. And honestly, for me, it should be one of the biggest topics I've ever discussed here at the Combot Collective. But honestly, it's just a little bit bittersweet, to be honest. As we jump into some TCC news right here. Probably another one we're going to make into a standalone. Let's get cracking here. This is a topic I quite frankly should be happy about. Like I said, I should be fired up for this news. I should be jumping up and down that this robot is finally back. But sadly, right now, things just feel sort of empty after this development of news for me personally. As all of you guys know, I may just be the biggest Bronco fan on earth. I got the Toro right here. I got the mini Broncos. I grew up idolizing Toro and Team Minus as a kid. I rallied the troops on the Battlebots subreddit around Bronco every year when the reboot seasons began. I even held strong and never backed down supporting my favorite robot during the frustration end years of 2019, 2020, especially 2019. I had to witness free shipping versus Bronco in person. That gave me PTSD, and not the good one, the one that happened in California. Every TCC news episode, every TCC episode in general, like I mentioned, y'all are graced with the Immersional Labs models right here in front of me. But yet, I just don't know how I should feel about this whole development, honest to God. In case it isn't obvious yet, we're talking about Bronco here. We're talking about the big development, the return of the beast, as some people have been calling it. On the 19th of June, a couple of weeks ago now, we heard the development that my favorite machine, Bronco, will be coming out of retirement to join the Destructathon cast of showbots. This all would kick off with a post made by Battlebots on their Instagram stories showing the returning Bronco driving around with the description, OMG, look who's joining Destructathon. Bronco is joining the ranks of showbots fighting regularly at Battlebots Destructathon. Starting this Wednesday, you might see Bronco launching robots to the roof. And now, obviously, when this development dropped, people were stoked, and reasonably so. I had friends on Discord, Reddit, even Instagram DMing me what was going on. And after a little bit of excitement at first, things kind of came back down to earth for me real quick. I stated already on a couple of platforms that even as a longtime Bronco fan, I really wasn't too excited to see a bunch of people dressed like cowboys act like they're driving around Bronco while it fights an endless loop of Chopper, Tazbot, and Kraken, which is exactly what has happened, by the way. But then some other developments came out which made me feel a little bit better about the whole thing, just the teens at least. Apparently, the two Broncos which had been prepared for Destructathon were not the showbots built for fixing like we've seen in the past, but instead were two Broncos used from the 2018 season onward by Inertia Labs. These two machines have been in the battle box before. They've seen Bombshell, Free Shipping, and Rotator inside the arena, and they've even thrown a couple of them outside of the arena. And, it seems likely they're also set to weigh 250 pounds, so maybe, just maybe, there's room for TCC legal fights down the road with Bronco. I would love to put them on the TCC overall rankings personally. But that brings us now to Bronco's debut on that aforementioned Wednesday, June the 21st, just over a week ago as of when I'm recording this. Bronco, after almost 4 years, was back inside the battle box, and it was set to face Overkill, a robot which Inertia Labs was only one fight away from challenging in both 4.0 and 5.0 with Matador. But thanks to Mo and Warhead, we would never see that showdown go down between C2 Robotics and Inertia Labs until today. Obviously, this ain't the same Overkill we saw making it the second in 2001, but the fight was still a threat nonetheless. We got to see Bronco, though, back in full flipping form, as it really made a chew toy out of Overkill. No threat here after all. It threw Overkill all around the arena before picking up its first out of the arena knockout win since the one it had over Duck in 2018. And this was exciting. And to make it even more exciting, for at least, this fight here, we saw the one and only Reason Bradley driving for this matchup. And he even did the signature Inertia Labs move of parking the robot back into the starting square after winning by knockout. It was such a great thing to see for old time's sake as an Inertia Labs super fan. Shouts to one of my friends for sending me some fan footage of that fight. And Reason Bradley said it himself after the fight that matchup felt so good to him in his return to Battlebox to finally get out of the arena again. And, hopefully I'm not reading too in between the lines when Reason Bradley said his return to the Battlebox. Obviously, it was technically his return. He hadn't appeared since 2020, but maybe he meant a proper return. Maybe. Wishful thinking, but I can only hope. I have my own dreams and imaginations of what a modernized Bronco would look like, and I would love to see it. But Bronco now has made itself a regular inside the Destructathon box and has already got a few fights under its belt. We've seen videos by Battlebots of its flipper power being so mighty it's able to throw itself onto the upper deck. And in a recent fight report provided by Zassa of the Battlebots Wiki Patreon, be sure to check that out, it looks like Bronco is now moving on to chopper matches for its first scheduled opponent. Apparently, flipper accuracy was pretty subpar in its first fight after Overkill. Guess the sub-drivers had arrived at that point. But once it was able to get under Chopper, its flips did some damage, was able to break Chopper's weapon, cripple some of the drive, and we would even get to see Bronco throw itself onto the upper deck after it threw Chopper onto the upper deck to attack it even more. Some real, I'm not finished with you, get over here kind of stuff. You love to see it. Very happy with that, at least, So Bronco's winning versus robots like Chopper and Overkill, and while that makes me happy, we end this off with another bittersweet feeling for me. On Bronco Brawler's Instagram, we'd see one final team photo with the robot. We'll have it right here. And the caption essentially stated that Destructathon would be Bronco's permanent home. So I guess that puts the final nail on the coffin of any sort of competitive Bronco return. I mean, I know Inertia Labs is a busy squad with companies such as Ninja Paintball under their umbrella, but I seriously hope this is not the last ever robot we see from my boys Reason and Xander. Maybe a compact design. I know it's their sort of signature thing to use pressurized flipping since they have Ninja Paintball, but I would love to see it. I am very curious, though, to see what they do with Bronco, who loses its asset in front of me here. Are they going to be a wuss and never give it any spinners like Diablo and Whiplash? Or are they just going to keep it fighting robots, like Tazbot, like Kraken, Great fights, don't get it twisted. Bronco versus Tazbot, Bronco versus Kraken, I'd love to see them. But if you ask me what fights out of the Destructathon crew I want to see the rematch versus Witch Doctor. I want to see that Bronco versus Hypershock Bronco versus Hypershock match we never got. But I think out of all of them, I want Bronco versus Nightmare. I know they're afraid to make Nightmare fight anything because apparently it's reportedly very hard to service. So that's why it pretty much only battles the slot machine, and sometimes it breaks down from that. But I want to see the crazy flipper try to throw that big blade into the ceiling, kind of like what Nightmare did to a piece of Spitfire did all the way back in 2001, throwing chunks of robot into the ceiling. I would love to see that. There's a lot of promising, fun opponents for Bronco to retire with inside a Destructathon arena, but I guess only time will tell. We'll just have to wait and see what goes down for my all-time favorite robot. Hopefully it isn't the last of Inertia Labs, but that's all we got for news on Bronco. We got more news, though. More stuff to talk about in terms of Destructathon, in terms of Proving Ground, more specifically, as while we are on the topic of Destructathon and all these Las Vegas festivities, like we discussed in our prior Robot Combat Tonight episode, we got a very, very special guest inside the Battlebox to discuss with everyone as we move on to our Proving Ground segment here. Announced shortly before episode 10 of this program was the development that Manta, our 2023 RoboGames champion, will be making its first official appearance inside the Battlebox versus a bubble competitor from 2022, Team Overboard's Triton. It was arguably one of the heaviest hitting verts taking on one of the heaviest hitting horizontals today. Two machines very traditional in design with insane quirks to make them very unique compared to other machines in the sport. Two monsters coming out of desert states named after forces from the underwater depths below. There was plenty of hype and fanfare behind both of these fights, but the matches themselves, unfortunately for Bradley Handstad, went the way we were all honestly sort of expecting them to. It was two fights over the last weekend on June, and honestly, huge credit to Triton for making it through both of these fights repaired and ready to go. Because Jesus, that Saturday showdown, a fight which supporters have already seen in full, was an absolute doozy. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already seen the first hit of this matchup. It's been posted all over Robot Combat social media across the last couple of weeks. One clip which saw Triton set sail in a much different way than what it wanted to do after a massive spark-shearing impact between the two robots. What wasn't shown though after this though was the few hits after the fact. Triton survived a handful of shots surprisingly, but would be taken away with another massive strike which putted Triton over to the driver's side corner. And shit, guys, if this strike was 6 inches more forward, we would have seen another out of the arena inside the battle box this year, joining Bronco and as Manta would join Bronco and Hydra, but so close, so far away. That did not save Manta though. That did not save Triton though. The horizontal spinner was dead in the water in just over a minute. That fight alone was enough reason to buy Battlebots supporter this month, but sadly, as of this recording, us supporters are still waiting on the second fight between these two robots. Luckily though, thanks to Zasa2 and the Battlebots wiki on Patreon, we do have info on the second fight of the weekend. This fight went very similarly, with Triton getting thrown forward before getting knocked out near the arena rails. And during an interview with Bradley Handstad after the fight, we got to hear a little bit about the future of Triton in Battlebots. Since we saw Triton's anchor blade get bent out of shape not once but twice during this series with Manta, it looks like the big goal for World Championship 8 is going to be having a shorter but thicker weapon on Triton. Triton's also looking to have a shorter but wider base for storing electronics, but hey, if you've watched these fights already as a supporter, you got to give credit to Team Overboard here. If anything has visibly improved since the TV season out of this fight, it has to be how well armored the body of Triton is. The days of Copperhead seem to be behind it because that big horizontal spinner took some hits during this outing. So Manta wins a pair of fights by minute-long KO and acquired 16 more points on the TCC overall rankings. Be sure to tune into the TCC socials for a TCC Top 10 update, and then tune into our next RCT episode for our next rankings update. The next series of Battlebots Proving Grounds fights have already actually wrapped up as of yesterday, as it was a pair of green flipping machines in Banshee and Maximum Paralysis going to war. Stay tuned for more updates on those robots during our next Robot Combat Tonight episode, plus some updates on the big Gigabyte weekend coming up, where the world's most famous full-body spinner will be fighting 3 unique challengers in Jackpot, Slammo, and Doom. That's going to be good. 5 fights on deck for everybody here. But like I mentioned at the very beginning, let's cap off this 4th of July episode, ironically enough, by crossing the pond for one more big-time event update. As we sort of sandwich this episode with one, we started with NHRL, we end here with Extreme Robots. Last time on Robot Combat Tonight, we discussed the first Extreme Robots 2023 event with the 3 competitions in Brentwood. 3 events of robot fighting goodness in the 250-pound class with machines such as Tectonic and Galactus standing high, while Team Quake had swept the entire weekend points-wise. But since that show, Extreme Robots had come back to Guildford, a long-time stomping ground for the UK live scene, to host their second leg of the 2023 season. 3 more events and 3 more points opportunities for our 4 teams. And unlike last week, we saw a little bit more of a split here in terms of robot-to-robot, team-to-team success. Machines such as GBO Nemesis, Austria's Scrappy, and even from the depths of Robot Wars Series 7, Leveler 2 Mark 1.5 would all make their 2023 Extreme Robots debut at this event. And we even got to see Sabretooth and Donald Thump bounce back from Brentwood with some seriously impressive knockout victories. But these free agents are not the robots we're here to discuss. Let's see how Divinity, Quake, and the Wolfpack fared at Stop 2. Side note here, just like with last episode, this is going to be a fairly truncated rundown of what happened at Extreme Robots in June. Stay tuned for a full event breakdown discussing all 27 plus robots which competed this month. Let's kick it off with our defending point leaders, Team Quake. The new boss was not the same as the old boss coming out of Brentwood. Like we mentioned, Team Quake swept that weekend off fantastic performances by Manta, Tectonic, and Thor. But with the team losing Thor at this stop, things were not clicking nearly the same as they had been a month prior. Mega Mouse, now a soul without a partner, would flounder in the one-on-one stage, finishing 1-3 with some tough losses, including a pair of Extreme Robots Championship opportunities falling right to the wayside. Manta also regressed pretty heavily here. The Flipper's power was back last month, but weapon woes seemed to return in June. Win-loss record was okay at least, with Manta going 2-1. Responsible for probably the best fight of the weekend, I gotta say. A double knockout tag team thriller where it won alongside Troublemaker. Big time combo out of the arena during this fight. It is a thrill ride. Be sure to check it out. And with that, Troublemaker, Manta both did okay enough. But Aftershock also regressed here with rival Zach Hill's 2023 debut. Aftershock tried a Blade of Armor versus the Killer Face Spinner, but this would be another knockout for the former Heat winner. But perhaps the biggest dropout out of any robot this week would belong to the biggest gainer last time, Tectonic. After a killer start in Brentwood, the steady flipper went 2-6, but did manage to take the Extreme Robots title off of Eruptions. So even though Team Quake really didn't take any points during this Guildford stop, at least they got to leave with the gold. One of the most important things you can win at Extreme Robots. That's big money. And speaking of the Extreme Robots title, we have the now championship-free Team Inferno. The team bounced back from a frustrating week one with a 500 record to finish their weekend, but this team is built off championships, so I know they are not satisfied with how this event ended. In the bigger picture, a lot of the robots did much better, starting with Implosion here. This new X-Bot was the worst performing machine last month, but really turned it around here with 4 wins and 3 losses, one of which being by way of knockout. Ignition, meanwhile, took a step back from last month, 1 win and 2 losses for the front hinge. But meanwhile, Eruption turned it around with a 3-2 weekend, but lost its title in the final show of the weekend by way of out of the arena. It has not been nearly as high as it was in 2022 thus far, where it ranked number 2 overall. They gotta get back in the groove. And finally, Beast once again kind of just stunk up the joint with a couple of breakdowns, but it did manage to get 1 win. Only 4 robots on in Team Inferno this week, felt off-numbered, but good news, the team did manage 1 point over the entire weekend, enough to get them back on the road to the title. But now we have Team Divinity. They struggled in 2022 and continue to do so here, and as of now, in Extreme Robots' short history with this team format, Team Divinity now stands as the only team with 1 career event win after a year and change under this team phase. Last month, their run was bolstered by great performances from the Roaming Robots squad, but this was not the case this week. The Roaming Robots machines only put together a 3-4 weekend. But hey, at least time you can say it was not the fault of Ripper number 7. The brand new beautiful machine really fumbled on its big debut week, but turned it around here. Ripper 7 dominated a Fight Club melee before show number 1, and then on show number 3 put together one of the best fights of the weekend with a back-and-forth victory over Implosion. Ripper 6 meanwhile struggled with a 1-2 record, and Galactus, one of the most pleasant surprises from the May event, showed up and fell out with 1 knockout loss to Belgium's Brutus. And once again, Team Saint really had troubles collectively leading the push here. Saint and Gabriel as a tandem would go 0 for 11. Yes, 0 for 11. But if we have one shining machine on this team, it would be the returning Zakiel. Zakiel made his long-awaited 2023 debut and knocked out both F7 and Aftershock, winning the newly established Extreme Robot Spinner title in the process. I wonder if they're going to have a new belt for that one too. I would like to see a big Saw Blade championship, something cool like that. Just an idea, Extreme Robots. That's something Monsoon could challenge for pretty convincingly. But now, let's move on to our big winner of the weekend. While not a clean sweep like Team Quake put down just a month ago, this is still a big-time victory for them this weekend. Talking about Team Wolfpack here, 2 of the 3 events concluded with 2023's brand new team's flag waving high over the Extreme Robots universe, and now Shane Lale's team is only 1 event win away from tying Team Quake for the season lead. Brutus, like we mentioned, picked up a shocking knockout victory over Galactus, but did struggle versus some of the flipper-based challengers in the field. But the flippers on Team Wolfpack did not disappoint on their own end. TR4, the hyped-up commodity, made it out of the weekend with an impressive 3-1 record, and the pair of Iron Alls at number 5 and number 8, looked like number 6 skipped the weekend, went a collective 5-3. Number 5 looked okay in its few showings, but number 8 was really the star here. Multiple wins, multiple out of the arenas, and multiple knockout victories. Still has yet to get that Extreme Robots Championship back though, sadly. And lastly, a shout out to Thunderchild, who I suppose shifted squads since May's event. It goes 2-1 here. Another positive performance for our friends at Team Ironclads. Shouts to them as always. You see all this footage we provide in the corner screen. It's because of them we can use it, so much love to them. And that's going to wrap it up for us here. In terms of news here at the Combot Collective, we talked about our qualifiers at NHRL. We talked about Clash of the Boss 2023. We talked about Rex. We talked about Bronco. We talked about Proving Grounds, Triton, Manta having some great fights. Look out for, Maximum Paralysis, Banshee, Gigabyte, Slammo, and other robots in the coming weeks. And we capped it off with some UK fun. Talked about Extreme Robots. Their next event will be in July, later on this month, I believe, in the Venture Center. I don't remember the exact city right now, but it is going to be in the Venture Center. Be sure to stay tuned for, like I mentioned, the Extreme Robots breakdown video, the NHRL breakdown video. Those are going to be very good. Look out for those. More TCC news videos, which are going to be, snippets from these bigger videos, and we're gonna have to just work from there. I want to do more live streams, more event rundowns on some other competitions, but right now I gotta play a little bit of catch up, to be honest. I got notes and no videos to go with them, so it's time to hunker down and get ready, because Battlebots Champions is gonna be happening sooner rather than later. We all know it, and we're all excited for it. We're gonna be going back to weekly content when that happens, but until then, I do apologize for the delay. I'll say that one more time. 13, 14 days without an upload on TCC is not very characteristic of us. We don't like it, so hopefully we can fix that. But we'll go ahead and wrap it up, guys, because this is going to be about an hour-long episode on the dot. I like it very much. This is Robot Combat Tonight, the Combot Collective here. I am Sterling Brown, as always, Sterling TXTG on Instagram. And if you like what you're seeing here at the Combot Collective, please follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We have news updates go there. We're going to have ranking updates go there. We're going to have video updates go there. We post in our story every now and then. You can join our Discord server. We got Robot Combat teams there, Robot Combat fans there, content creators hanging out there, both young and old. All of our Robot Combat Tonight recordings, for the most part, are aired there live, so you can hear our unhinged takes, our mistakes, all the opinions, all of our thoughts, as they occur. And of course, right here on the YouTube page, please like the video, leave a comment, give us your thoughts on, Rex potentially returning, Bronco returning, NHRL, Extreme Robots, Battlebots, Manta. We want to know what you guys think. Let's hear your constructive criticism. Let's hear your thoughts. And if you really liked it, hey, press that subscribe button and ring that bell icon. It would mean the world to us. We're trying to expand the Combot Collective every day. Been a little bit slow running lately, but that's partially been my fault. Let's get on to it, boys. We're wrapping up the Robot Combat Tonight, episode 11 here, though. We'll see you guys for episode 12 sooner rather than later. I think we're going to try talking about the Robot Combat Hall of Fame during it. Won't that be fun? We'll catch you on the flip side. Adios, fans.
This was the Combot Collective. Find us on Instagram and Discord.